We'd like to call to order the meeting of the Provo Municipal Council, 5:30 p.m. Tuesday, August 1st, 2023. We currently have Councillor Dave Shipley, Councillor Shannon Ellsworth, Councillor Bill Fillmore, myself, Catrice McKay, and Councillor Rachel Whipple. And online, we have, do we have George Hanley still? I don't see anybody online. He is. Okay, George Hanley's online. Is Travis Hoban? And Travis Hoban is excused. The opening prayer will be by invitation. Tonight's prayer will be provided by Aaron McCullough. You're welcome to come up. Thank you so much, Aaron. The Pledge of Allegiance will be provided by Councillor Bill Fillmore.
Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, as indicated on the screen, a required public hearing will be held for certain agenda items prior to council action. After each such item has been presented, time to comment will be provided for all those who wish to speak. For items that do not require a public hearing, public comment will still be taken following presentation of this item, but will be limited to 10 minutes. At this time, up to 15 minutes have been set aside for an open public comment period, which is intended to allow comment on matters that do not appear on the agenda. Persons who speak during this time to an item that is on the agenda will not normally be afforded a second opportunity to speak during the comment period specific to that item. During any public comment period, each speaker will generally be limited to 2 minutes. Due to noticing requirements, no formal action will be taken in this meeting on matters that do not appear on the agenda. Those with comments are invited to approach the podium. Those participating on Zoom will need to use the raise hand feature to indicate they wish to comment. The chair may choose to alternate between in-person and online commenters. Please begin your comments by stating your name and city of residence, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak. Is there anyone right now who would like to make a general comment? You can come right to the podium. Is that mic turned on, Malia?
I'll just speak loud.
Oh, no, that's
there it is.
Great.
Okay.
And we need your full name, please.
My name is Denise DeVank. I'm a resident of Orem City. I just want to congratulate you because I saw it on KSL today about Mr. Shipley and I were just talking, and I just gave you an invitation to the only sustainability school of design, of permaculture design here in Utah. It's 9 years old this year, you guys. My water bill, even though we have 4-tier levels, since the legislature told the cities, go ahead and charge more for people that waste water. But most of our water, Governor Herbert told us, 60% of our culinary water goes to our lawns. And so that's why people have high water bills. And so raising the cost of it doesn't seem to really have made a difference. But if we can teach people the different things they can do, which my former Mayor Brunst came, and Tom Westmoreland, and others, they've come and visited, and you are all invited as my personal guests this year to my tour and taste. I have 37 kinds of berries, 105 fruit and nut trees, all no weeds, hardly any work now because I'm getting too disabled and old, and I love it. It's 20 degrees cooler. My water bill in June was $26.
Wow.
We can do these things. Water systems catching rain off the roofs to the garden. Salt Lake has ordinances and incentives, and we could do that in Utah County to take water when it's coming down the street because 40% of it evaporates anyway. We've had these great rains lately, and I'm like, wanting to put sandbags and take the water onto the property, but it's not legal yet. There are so many things we can do. So I want to invite you guys, come and see what hundreds of families, including Mike Schultz, our representative of Utah on the UIPA authority, has literally had his parents come and learn how to do this so he can do it on a 3,000 acre ranch. We can do these things in Utah. You're doing great already. Many cities are doing wonderful things. Flip your strip, water savers, everything. But there's so much more I'd like to share with you. And I want you to experience how beautiful it is. It's like a Garden of Eden, people say. It is wonderful what we can do in the desert and not use much water and have food. Okay, you guys? So you're all personally invited. Thank you.
It'd be great for you to send an email to our staff or give that to them. That'd be perfect. And they can pass it on to us. Thank you so much. All right. Any other public comment? Hello. Make sure to just say your name, please.
Hi, I'm Christy Lehman, and I'm speaking out of turn a little bit. I just wanted to speak because I have to leave later about the Conservation and Resiliency Plan. I wanted to express my support. I'm really proud to live in a city that would be as forward-thinking as Provo has been, to look to the future and plan for our future. So thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Any other public comment? All right. Our first item today, a presentation of the Environmental Stewardship Award to Provo City. And this will be presented by James Westwater, who's the chairman of the Utah Valley Earth Forum.
Thank you very much. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here before you. Thank you. The Utah Valley Earth Forum was founded in 2006 to help Utah Valley communities move forward in their efforts to be sustainable and good stewards of the earth, our common home. For the past 10 years, the Earth Forum has conducted environmental surveys of Utah Valley cities and towns. The surveys are intended to share with the public what our Utah Valley communities are doing to help improve sustainability, the health of their residents, and the planet. In addition, the surveys provide a list of many things communities can do to be helpful. The surveys are also intended to inspire cities to do more and to identify and honor outstanding efforts to be helpful. Provo City's 2022-2023 list of environmental efforts was so impressive that Provo has earned a UVEF Earth Stewardship Award for exemplary achievement. Provo and all those who helped deserve our heartiest congratulations. Please keep up the good work. Now, I'll read the citation for you. Here it is. And it says, Earth Stewardship Award presented to Provo City in recognition of exemplary efforts to help the Earth's environment, which we all share, achieving helpful advances, including Net Zero City Hall, water-wise programs, long-range sustainability planning, community engagement, aquifer recharge, and renewable energy innovation. I would like to present this to the mayor.
That's great.
And I wonder if, would it be appropriate? We have another gift too for Provo City. Would it be appropriate to have council in the photo too?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Yes, yes. Now, should we all stand up here in the front of city council, or should they come down?
They will come down. They know the drill.
I'll take this for you. Yeah.
Okay. We also have a gift for Provo. This is from the Utah Valley Earth Forum. It's a photograph I made of Mesa Arch at sunrise. How many of you have been to Mesa Arch at sunrise? Okay. Sunrise is the most popular time because you can see the sun setting up right below in the middle of the arch. However, there are hundreds of other people there at the same time. I went there and I set up my camera real early and I asked people to please indulge me so I can get this panoramic view, and they did. And right after the sun peaked, then I left and they crowded up to make the photos. So I want to present this to someone here. Should we all? I don't want to block the view of the. Can you see all of this?
Yeah, I stand in front of see you, but you don't have any lights.
There we go.
Okay, next we have an implied motion on a resolution appointing an individual to the Board of Adjustment. And this will be presented by Mayor Michelle Kifusi.
Chair McKay and Vice Chair Whipple, members of the Municipal Council, I am recommending the following appointment to Provo City's Board of Adjustments as indicated below and submit this for the council's advice and consent. Amanda Peterson. Amanda has previously served on both the Midway City Planning Commission and the Payson City Planning Commission. Due to her experience, I am recommending Amanda to be appointed to a 5-year term as an alternate on the Board of Adjustments ending June 30th, 2028. And let me just add, the fact that we are to the point where we are appointing alternates is a great sign for the boards and commissions for the city of Provo.
Excellent, thank you. Any questions for the mayor? Okay, thank you. Council discussion? All right, I will call for a vote on the implied motion. Councillor McKay, yes. Councillor Whipple?
Yes.
Councillor Ellsworth?
Yes.
Councillor Fillmore?
Yes.
Councillor Handley?
Yes.
Councillor Shipley?
Yes.
And Councillor Holborn is excused, so that is unanimous with 6 yeses. Next, an implied ordinance amending Provo City Code to allow meeting halls for rent as a conditional use in the agricultural zone and establishing standards for that use. It will be presented by Aaron Ardmore.
Thank you, Council. So I won't go too deep into this as we discussed it at length in study session today, but let me just give an overview for the public. So the request here is to add meeting halls for rent as a conditional use in agricultural zones. This would be a citywide amendment. As a conditional use, anybody in the A1 zone would be able to ask for the conditional use permit for a dance hall or event hall in any of our A1 zones. Staff has brought forward these additional proposals as standardized conditions for the use. when that request has been made. As you're aware, as we discussed today during study session, Plan Commission has also put forward some recommendations for conditions as well. Here's areas of impact and staff's take on the proposal, as you're aware. So if you have any questions for me or anything else I should cover.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
Any questions for Aaron? Counselor Whipple.
Thank you. I had to be absent for the discussion earlier today, so I apologize for that. I was just curious if you could tell me what percentage of the land would be converted through this addition of a meeting hall and the parking lot for it.
So we have a proposed condition that would say no more than 49% of the parcel could be used for the event hall and parking associated with it. That could be changed or amended. But that's the proposal.
So about half of the land.
You're right.
Okay, thank you. That was my question.
Yeah, great.
All right, we'd like to open up this item for a public hearing. So anyone who'd like to speak on this item now can do so. Wait, are we going to hear from the Finches this first? Are we hearing from? Yeah. But are we doing the public hearing first or the applicant first?
We usually hear the applicant first.
Okay, so sorry. Let's hear from the applicant first.
Well, I'm grateful to be here tonight. My name's Barry Finch. This is my wife, Judy. We've lived on a farm in West Provo since we've been married. I've lived there my entire life. This is a picture of an event barn that we'd like to build on our property. You asked about where that would fall. It will fall in the existing farmyard that's been asphalted for years and years and years. It's just where the outbuildings are on our property. And for our property, it would be 1 acre of the total of 10. Our farm, we used to run up to 100 acres. For many years, we ran 100 acres. When they built the Lakeside Parkway Road, many of the farms, as you know, were impacted. Ours was one of those. And so we were squeezed down. We continued to farm, however, knowing and hearing rumors of a ballpark that was coming in. Well, now the farm that I've run my entire life is ballparks are going in the process of becoming ballparks. And I'm fine with that. But as a farm owner, I had to think outside the box. What can I do now? I don't want to sell my farm. I don't want to give up that lifestyle. And I know a lot of my neighbors don't want me to give that up either. And so we developed a horse boarding business. Never been on a horse in my life, hardly once or twice in my life. And we learned to work with horses, and we learned to have people down and take care of animals. We have now many, many kinds of animals in our yard. But events have made us where my wife has had to quit her job. She's a registered nurse for 35 years. And so she has to be home now. And so we're looking to supplement our income a bit more. And so we have been told for years and years that that people say you should build an event barn. We love coming to a farm. We love coming to a farm. Well, we've tried to, as we've considered this, we finally felt like this was the time to do that. We've listened to the city and their concerns. We've listened and tried to talk with as many people as we could. We've probably talked to 80 or 90 of our neighbors in their homes, not on the phone, not through text. We've gone to their homes and shown them what we're about. And as a result, we've had a very positive, I haven't had anybody talk to me negative about the project. So this is the picture of the barn that we intend to build. The specs could be a little different, but that's the kit we will buy. So this process has gone on now for 5 months. It's not been a week or a day. It's been 5 months, and it's stressful and it's hard, and financial situations are pending. And so it's been a little frustrating that it has taken this long, but it's a process. During that time, we've met with the zoning and planning people many times. We've attended 2 neighborhood meetings where we got, again, very good support. We've had 2 meetings with the planning commissioners. Those, to be honest, were frustrating because I think that the work that should have been done, nailing down verbiage of specific mitigation ideas or conditional uses, were not done. And then we were trying to do it here in this kind of a setting. That's impossible. It's impossible. Even with that, we lost narrowly on a 4-3 vote. Now we're here seeking your approval for a project that I think will really help Provo. We've heard the staff's concerns. If I could boil them down, I would say there are 3, and we'll address those today. The first concern is they don't think that that our project doesn't meet the purpose and objectives of the agricultural zone. They say that we are putting a commercial building on an agricultural zone. Okay, we've got the goal here stated. I should have had a slide, and somehow it got sent out into the ether. But it says the agricultural zone is established to provide areas in which agricultural pursuits can be encouraged and supported within the city. That's exactly what we're asking for. We're asking for an agricultural pursuit. Our barn will be agricultural themed. There's no reason for somebody not to go to some beautiful location up in the mountains and to a cabin if that's what they want. But if they want animals and a farm setting, this is a living, working farm. This is the only place in Provo that would have that. Right now, to get to some sort of venue like this, you have to go to neighboring cities like Spanish Fork and Linden. It also says that the goal of the ag zone is designed and intended to protect agricultural uses from encroachment. Agricultural uses, it doesn't just say growing hay and grain and milking cows. It doesn't say that. It says agricultural uses. It also adds that until such time as residential, commercial, or industrial uses in such areas become necessary or desirable. In other words, if we ever deem that we'd like to do something else, that we have options, as does the city. Right now, there's a farm that's going into ballparks. It was deemed necessary and desirable. We're deeming our property to be desirable to do something else as well. It also says in that agricultural zone not to change the agricultural character. Well, this certainly would not be deemed a commercial building. It's an agricultural building. There's not a barn out there that I don't make money off of. They're all commercial buildings. If you think of it that way, I've sold hay out of them all. I've sold animals. I board horses. I get paid for every barn I have. This will be no different. In your packet, hopefully you read that. We put just a couple of sample articles. Notice this is from the United States Department of Agriculture. So when we're talking agriculture, that's the best source I can get. I can't get anybody else that's higher than that. And they're saying that agritainment or agritourism, including weddings, reunions, and the type of events that we're planning on having, are an important part of agriculture moving into the future. Barn weddings can mean big income boosts. As we talked to the committee, the city planners, the planning commission meeting, planning commissioners, they agreed with us that this would work. In fact, in their report of action, we pulled these 2 quotes. The majority of the commission feels that the proposal meets the agricultural goals of the city. The second quote was that the proposed use is one that should work in agricultural zones as a conditional use if there were standard conditions applied. Unfortunately, we were never able to hammer out those in a public meeting, but the commission did view this as agriculture and something that would work with the zone. Okay. Anyway, so we feel that first concern of not meeting the agricultural 1 zone is crazy. I don't know in what way it doesn't meet it. We're doing agricultural pursuits. We're not changing the character of the land. And the place where the building and the parking lot are going is only 1/10 of the property, and it's on something that's already asphalted and always has been.
Okay, the concern number 2 that staff consistently claims that our project is not in harmony with the general plan for Provo. That could not be further from the truth. Let me show you Provo City's general plan for the southwest area. In its guiding principles, policies, and goals, it says, the general plan establishes goals and policies for the Southwest area. The purpose of these goals and policies is to guide development in the Southwest Provo, respecting Provo's agricultural heritage. Policy 1 says to preserve Provo's agricultural heritage and support agriculture for as long as farmers choose to farm. So it says for you to identify obstacles to the success of the current and prospective farmers, including non-traditional farmers, and to remove these obstacles. It doesn't say to make part of agricultural land commercial, to be able to implement it into agritourism. We feel agricultural wedding venues are part of agriculture, and there's many of those articles support that agriculture, that these farm weddings are agriculture, and they're in demand. They're very, very popular. They're very, very in demand. And the A1, and by updating the A1 zone to allow meeting halls for rent under conditional use is a way you can help remove this obstacle. So 1, identify and remove obstacles for farmers. And number 2 states to encourage agritourism. Encourage agritourism. So the purpose is to truly follow the general plan and guide and develop in the Southwest Provo, respecting Provo's agricultural heritage. Creating a dotted commercial zoning on our farmyard is not a way to respect Provo's agricultural heritage. The farming industry is continuing to evolve. There will be more unique and creative ideas thought up to get people to the farm. For example, 10 years ago, no one thought about going to a corn maze. And someone was creative and they created a corn maze, and that's been a big, you may say, commercial business. It's a big business. Also, pumpkin patches, big business. Hay rides, you pick gardens, farmers markets, and yes, farm weddings. Agritourism will continue to evolve as farmers continue to create ideas to entice people to come to the farm.
So we feel we feel we're in complete alignment with the long-term plan. Since this process started, that's all we've heard. We've heard the long-term plan, the long-term plan. I've had Mr. Pepperoni put it up on the board, and Aaron, that we're not in compliance with that. You guys judge. You guys judge. It even mentions agritourism twice. Twice it mentions it. So we'll leave that to you guys to decide. But this, if we talk about this being anything but agriculture, we're saying we know better than the USDA. We know better than a worldwide industry. It's a multi-billion dollar industry worldwide in agritourism, and over $1 billion industry in the United States, and growing fast. Concern number 3. The staff is concerned that the proposed amendment to the A1 zone will have some citywide application and could somehow cause future problems for the city. In other words, everyone's going to do this. Everyone in A1 is going to do this. Well, in order to understand this argument, we need to look at the map. So unfortunately, the little details on the map don't show up very good. So we Cato penned the areas we want to show you. The green areas, the darker green areas. This is a future map that shows from the long-term plan, from the general plan, and it's showing what the vision is of the future. Notice that south of the new road that goes to the airport, I don't have a pointer, so anyway, you can see where the road goes, that the only green that remains mostly is on the south side of the road. That would be in a floodplain. Nobody's going to be building there. Up on the north of the airport, also completely, that whole Cato Pen area is in a floodplain. Everything up here on the east side of town, all in a hazardous area. Let me show you what it says. Those areas have a marking, and it doesn't show up on this copy of the map. But what it says is that marking suggests a designation serves as a flag to put prospective purchasers, land developers, and city representatives on notice that there may be physical limitations or hazards associated with development of these lands. In other words, everything in Cato Pen, buyer beware. So would you, if you were a property owner and you had some green up there, would you say, well, hey, I'll sell to a developer and let him buyer beware? Or would you put $1 million into an event barn or $100,000 into it, whatever it is? I think most people are going to choose the latter. So everything inside the Cato Pen, even on the south side of the new road, reaches in there, is in that floodplain. Go ahead to the next map. So Aaron called this the impact area. So if we just Cato Penned where the road was. So where the slash marks are, that's the lake. Nobody's going to build there. Okay, so really, when we come down to it, we know that the east side was completely in a red flag area as well. So this area here by the road, it's on 600 South going towards the airport. Can you point there? I don't know how to do it. Anyway, north of the new road. That really is the true area that we're talking about when we say, oh, this could have citywide impact. I know about 5 years ago, before they decided that the sewer system wasn't up to pat, there was a developer that was going to buy about 2/3 of that. So that could go, once things open up, that whole green square could go to one developer or two developers. So I just don't see where this would be a rampant thing. We've also, so we feel like having this amendment would be helpful for the city. Reason being, a citywide application of this amended code would help the city impose conditional uses or restrictions on future projects in the A1 zone. Everyone that would be in this zone and wanted to do a project similar to ours would be beholden to the same rules that we are, restrictions or conditional uses that we would be beholden to. Go ahead. So in meeting with the staff and planning commission, these are the conditional uses that have been discussed. We've actually changed them a little bit because we've made them a little stricter. We live there. We don't want anything to be bad. So number one is off-street parking. Our venue, and therefore anyone else's, would have to have all the parking on their property. Okay? If four spaces, or a space for every 4 people. Number 2, people worried about sound. No musical instruments, stereophonic equipment, sound amplifier, or similar device shall be operated such as manner as to create a noise vibration disturbance across real property boundary as per Provo City Sound Ordinance. That's a mouthful. We're going to keep and abide by the city ordinance. We've already talked to our builder. The building is a top flight building. It's like your ski lodges. That's how it's built, where the timbers and beams will be exposed. They put extra heavy duty insulation, R40 insulation, plus another level of sound barrier. Let's skip number 3. I'll come back to that. Number 4, the design of the meeting hall building shall be characteristic of an agricultural use. No outside metal building material will be used except for the roof. I heard in your work meeting today that we're going to build some sort of Quonset hut. I promise you we are not. Okay? We're going to build something that costs 10 times that. And it's going to be in our backyard, and we're the closest people that would have to listen to it. But the next person would have to abide by that rule as well. The meeting hall and associated parking shall not occupy more than, we said, you asked Mrs. Whipple, sorry, I'm nervous. Mrs. Whipple. Councilwoman Whipple. We said, you said how much? They said 49%. We say 1/3. You shouldn't have half your place in a parking lot or a venue. What we're doing is putting something that's already a farmyard. It's the yard. Every farm has a farm yard. It's always been asphalted. It's where we put our machinery and things and buildings. We'll destroy some of those older buildings that don't look that great. They've had 40 years of animal use and farm use, and we'll tear them down, and we're going to build a barn that looks like the one you see on Yellowstone. Lighting, there's no issue with lighting. Our lighting is hundreds of feet away from any homes. There will be a single point of access, which will be managed by security and if required, and only invited guests are permitted to enter. Once on-site parking is full, no additional patrons will be allowed to enter. Again, if there's a mad rush for other people to do this, they're going to have to fence their whole entire property to limit to one access point. They're going to have to follow and abide by all these rules. They're going to have to pay someone to monitor that as well. And we, the staff didn't put anything about this, but we thought our neighbors would appreciate this. All activities will end at no later than midnight. So we have bent over backwards to try to do these. We have one concern, and that was a discrepancy on item number 3, which was with security. The staff said any event we have, any event, that was the word, any event, will trigger the need for security. In fact, 2 security guards. Well, that's 2 more than any of you have ever seen at a wedding. I dare bet. That's 2 more than we've ever had at a ward function or a ward breakfast, 2 more than a birthday party's ever had. You get my point. What we said, our verbiage and the planning commissioners agreed that listing live music, the presence of alcohol, and events that go past 10 o'clock would be good factors to trigger the need for security. And we're willing to abide by that. No one else in the world abides by that, but we are willing to do that because we want this to be a safe place and we want the events to be something we can be proud of. Go ahead and do your thing.
You want to summarize?
We'll summary.
So in summary, we feel we meet the purpose and objectives of the agricultural zones. We are in harmony with Provo City's general plan and the plan for the Southwest neighborhood. Citywide conditional use zone amendment will help mitigate the concerns of the city and the community. If you approve this zoning amendment, we will build a beautiful barn where families can get together to celebrate special events in an agricultural setting with opportunities for hands-on animal experiences. We will implement agritourism to preserve agriculture, to preserve Provo's agriculture and agricultural heritage. Raising and caring for animals is a part of Provo's heritage. We want others to experience this heritage and to preserve agriculture. Our farm was a dairy farm and a welfare farm. It used to be hundreds of acres all across Provo. As Provo has developed, it continues to shrink. We were farming the ground that is now the ballpark project. As Provo has changed, we have to make changes too. So our farm is now 10 acres, where we raise and care for many kinds of animals, and we have a horse boarding business. We'd like to share this with the community. We plan for a beautiful building with beautiful landscaping, bringing agriculture into the landscaping, like a petting zoo or a duck pond. Barry doesn't want a duck pond, but a duck pond. Parking will be all on site. On the adjacent barn to the side, there's 2 metal barns. In one of those, we would like to have a little petting zoo. So we put a lot of thought into this to make it very agriculture and to preserve that agriculture in Provo. So the outside will have opportunities for outside events. And then we just want to bring the agriculture to be a part of what we are doing. So this is where we want to put our barn. It's just the perfect place. Just pop it in right there.
It doesn't look very good now. There was a fire there. And to be honest, I've had a stupor of thought on what I should do. And now we're gonna spruce that up and make it nice. So
we do horse boarding all along the edges and out behind where we have pasture spaces. But right here in the front, there's just non-complete buildings. It's just waiting for us. So we feel like we'll have a positive impact on the neighborhood. We're preserving a 70-year-old family farm, making it a pocket of agriculture in Provo. Offer destination that can help connect people and families to a working farm, beautifies an area that is currently agriculture but not very attractive, provides a large agricultural flavor event center that is not currently found in Provo, offering a place for church groups, family groups, and eliminating dust because we're going to repair that entry with some asphalt.
So we want to sell our farm, not to a developer, but to the public. And that's what we intend on doing. Just in summary, I'd say this. I can only quote the best sources out there. The USDA, the leading experts in agriculture say that what we're doing is agriculture. To me, I'm just taking from the words you said in your planning or your working meeting, to make a dot of my 10-acre farm commercial is far more a violation of any general plan ideas than what we're suggesting. It doesn't make sense. That we've shown you that the actual area that's going to be affected by this, where it can run rampant, is far less than what the city staff has suggested that it is. And even the city, if you remember the first map that I showed you, it was a future map. There was no green on the inside of that map, on the inside of the road. There was no green.
The only green agricultural left on the future plan for Provo was our farm and the Hinckley farm. Everything else was developed.
That was it. Now, I know there's some people that are going to argue with that, and they're going to be there forever. I know the Paces are not going to sell. I know the Stubbs are not going to sell. So there will be some farms that will still exist. But the plan of the city, the vision of the city is to eliminate these. So we better work right now to help us farmers make this transition, or our option is not to sell the ground to the public, but to a developer. And I would just hope that you would think about that.
Also, our goal is to share our farm with the public. These big farms, these other farms, they're just their farms. Public isn't come in. Our farm has always been open to the public. When we did pumpkins, we had pumpkin patch. The kids from the elementary school walk over, go through our pumpkin patch. We do little horse rides. Anyway, we want the community to be a part of our farm.
Okay, thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Finch. All right, we'd like to open up this item for a public hearing. So anyone at this time of the public who'd like to speak, you have 2 minutes. Please just say your name first.
Good evening, esteemed members of the City Council. I'm Mayor Kafusi. My name is Scott Campbell. I reside in Pleasant Grove, but my business is located here in Provo. I am the owner and CEO of Strider Security LLC. We're a long-standing business here in Provo. By a level of profession, I am a member of the International Septet Association. I am a state qualified agent with the Department of Occupational and Professional Licensing. And in the years that we've been in business, you guys have actually seen a lot of what we've done here in Provo. Recently, the Provo Town Center Mall uses our company as a primary provider for security when they have the carnivals in town. And you have watched East Bay Shopping Center change significantly over the last 5 years since we took over responsibility for security for that project. Now every business in there is full, vagrancy is down, and it's a safe place to shop and eat and play for members of the community. As I went out to look at this property, the Finches have, in my opinion, an excellent plan that fits in with international SEPTED standards, which means that they're going to beautify it, they're going to improve the property, and it's going to be safer and more attractive for the community. As we looked at traffic flow, the traffic flow space is excellent for the space involved. And the only concern I had is when I looked at the documentation, it said that all events should have 2 security persons. As a security professional in the industry, I think that's overkill. I don't think that's appropriate. For instance, they have a church group come out for activity days. I really don't think we need 2 security professionals out there for that. But we have discussed that if there's alcohol being served, there should be 2 officers. Live music being played, there should be a minimum of 1 officer. If an event is scheduled after 10 o'clock p.m., there should be an officer. And any events that are essentially over 100 adult attendees should have an officer. And we've essentially built up post orders to cover all of those contingencies for them. And quite frankly, I think the elimination of hay bales and other church buildings around the neighborhood will be a beautiful thing, and we'll save a lot of vacuum cleaners in church buildings by having the hay bales on their property.
Okay, thank you so much. Remember to say your name, please.
Hi, my name is Kathy Sorensen. I served as the Provo Bay neighborhood chair for several years. I've talked to hundreds of my neighbors in the Bay, Fort Utah, and Sunset neighborhoods, pretty much all of West Provo. Overwhelmingly, the two biggest issues I heard were, how do we preserve what's left of the agriculture in West Provo, and how do we get a grocery store? I don't know when the second one is ever going to happen, but I believe tonight we can protect one of the very few remaining pockets of agriculture in our city. I grew up on the Finch family farm. I've lived there my whole life, nearly 60 years. I'm very proud of my farming roots. I believe agriculture plays a vital role in a community. In today's world, I feel like families are seeking out opportunities that can only be found on a farm. To ride a pony, pick a pumpkin from a vine, not from a bin at the grocery store, pet a goat, feed an apple to a horse, and so much more. I feel like Finch Family Farm has contributed to our community in positive ways for decades, and hopefully can continue to do so. But the truth is, if this barn isn't built, not today, but in the not too distant future, this beautiful agricultural property sells and becomes just another dime a dozen subdivision. Tonight, as a council, I hope you'll help us preserve it. Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy.
I'm Adam Finch. I grew up on this farm. They're my parents. And this is something that I'm eventually going to inherit with my siblings. And with this on the property is going to be a lot easier to keep. It's not going to be something that we're going to be discussing about selling. It's something that we're going to talk about building together as a family and preserving agriculture for generations. This building's going to last forever. We're building it to stand, to last, and it's going to bring our family together. It's going to bring the community together. And even if there was another one that came up, that's a good thing for agriculture. It's not a bad thing for the city. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Hallie Finch. I'm actually married to Adam. We had the opportunity to get married in my in-laws' backyard last year. I grew up clear out in Layton, never thought I'd get the opportunity to get married in a backyard. First time that I was able to go to my in-laws' farm, my mother-in-law took me by horseback to tour the farm. I was on cloud nine, so I'd love to be able to give that same opportunity to other families out there, other girls like me that wanted to get married on a farm growing up. Have the horses in the background with the pictures. I'd love to be able to give my daughter and whatever future children I might have the opportunity to grow up around this farm and be involved with the animals and whatnot. So
thank you. All right, no more public comment. Okay, I'll open this up to council.
Aaron McCullough. I'm a neighbor, not an adjoining neighbor. I'm about a block away. So I just wanted to let you know that I have thought about this, considered this as a neighbor, and I only see positives. I have considered all of the potential negatives. I only see positives as a city entity, as an asset. It rejuvenates what is today, a little ugly, rundown old farm, and I grew up on a rundown old farm. So that's not necessarily, uncommon. It will solve the dust issue that the neighbors see as people drive out of the north exit today. So I see positives for neighborhood, and I see asset for the city.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kirsten Zimmerman, and I'm in a cul-de-sac almost directly south of the Finch's property, one of the closest neighbors to his property. And one of the things that I love about living there is the farm. I love the animals, hearing them screaming at each other in the morning, which they almost always do. And I love it. I love that there's farmland in West Provo and that still exists. And I would love to see the Finches be able to continue their farm in a way that meets their needs. And I think it fully aligns with the city's requirements. And I think it'll be a great asset to our neighborhood and beautify the farm in a wonderful way.
Thank you.
My name is Catherine Blumberg. I actually spoke last time and I sent in an email, and I won't rehash a lot of what I said there. Obviously, I'm in favor of this. I was just going to say real quick, one of my heroes is Beatrice Potter. And in England, she saved the Lake District because she was able to make money off of her books. And when developers were coming in and buying and trying to sell out that whole area, she used her money to outbid them and preserve it. And all of England is so grateful for her now. This is something that we have a chance to preserve a little spot for good. And I will also say that I have been part of some of what they have already been doing for the community last year and this year. My son's little activity day group had the opportunity to go and have an experience riding horses there. He wouldn't have had that opportunity if we didn't have a farm in this location. Also, my daughter is learning how to work with a horse with Judy, and that I got to be there this morning as we did this. And afterwards, she's like, we have extra blackberries. Would you like to pick some? These are the kind of experiences that we want to keep for people that don't have a farm themselves and will truly benefit from having a farm amidst them. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we will now open up this item for council discussion. Don't everyone speak at once. Aaron, do you have something you want to say? Do you have a response? Okay. Bill felt you had something to say. Councillor Fillmore.
Yeah, I'd like to ask the Finches a few questions if I might.
You're welcome to come. Yes, please speak into the mic.
Yeah. I am in favor of the general concept of agritourism. And this looks like it could be a nice project for the southwest part of the city. We do get all kinds of emails, right? Pros and cons. We're aware of the planning commission vote. We're aware of some reservations on the part of the planning people of the city. Could you address some of those things that we've read? Seems to be a concern by some that there's a potential noise factor from parties 10 to 12 at night. And how close is the closest home to where you'd be?
I think the closest home would be about 300 feet. Most of them would be further than that.
Okay.
I know, again, I live there. I'm the closest home. So our first concern was also sound. Mm-hmm. And so our initial thought was to build, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the area, but there's a brand new, on our street, there's a brand new red barn down there. It's kind of a landmark now. Our thought was to build something like that. And when we considered it, we're like, well, that's not going to work. That's going to be loud. It's going to be like a tin can. And so we started looking and tripled our budget and came up with a post and beam building. A post and beam building is as good as you can get. Mm-hmm. So they will have the R40 insulation on the walls and the ceiling. The roof will be pitched like that, so there will not be any attic space. But they put, and I don't know the technical word for it, but like if you walked into a cooler, like a produce cooler or something, they would have a wall of insulation that's compressed really thick, that's about like that thick, and that's what holds that coolness in. It also helps dampen sound. The ceiling will have that. Underneath that, there'll be tongue and groove oak, what do you call it? Ceiling, the ceiling. So it's not gonna be sheetrock. So we got a covering outside, a layer of insulation, a layer of, I asked the lady specifically that was talking to me from the construction company. I said, you've built things all over the country. You've had people use them for everything in the world. Have you got venues that have done music or parties and had problem with noise? And trust me, we don't want to spend the kind of money we're spending and then have a problem. So that was my first question. She said, to be honest, you're the first guy that's ever asked me that. She said, if they're having problems with noise, they're keeping it to themselves. We've never had a customer bring that up to us. So I have to think that we're doing all we can. It's going to be more soundproof than say your home would be, just by the type of construction, but also the distance. We're good 300 to 500 feet away from most homes.
Okay. Aaron, does the city have any concerns about noise? Are you satisfied that this construction would avoid a nuisance to the neighbors?
Hasn't really been analyzed. We're just looking at conditional use permit right now, right? We're not looking at a building permit construction plans. So it's hard to answer that question. I think that would depend case by case as these come in.
Right. I guess that's true. We're just looking at the general ordinance at this point, right?
Because technically anything could be built
At this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
There are restrictions on what can be. Like you can't build a Quonset hut. You can't build that cheap building. It has to be, remember in the conditional uses, it states that it has to be no metal structure on the outside. So it's got to be a wood frame building with insulation and everything just like your home. So at the very least, it's going to be like your home. So
It also has to follow the sound ordinance in Provo. So if it doesn't follow that sound ordinance, then you're shut down. So I know that there may have been in a letter, they're concerned about noise, where we have to be really careful with noise because someone with their truck blasting music echoes right across the farm or right across the open space. So people will hear noises or music, but we're planning on keeping the noise in the barn. We're not having live bands outside. The noise is in the barn and it will be contained.
And I will say we have a few Hispanic neighbors. And I think a lot of people think maybe that the noise they're hearing late at night comes from our farm. It does not. It does not. It never has. It's from those neighbors. And so we do not allow that in our place.
Okay.
Everybody knows it. That's there.
Stay right there if you would. I wanted to ask another question, Aaron, since you're point man for the city on this, Aaron. The one textual concern I had about the ordinance, it talks about security if, and then it lists 3 or 4 items. If it's after 10, if there's alcohol, what's the other one? Live music. And then it says and I was wondering why it doesn't say or. In other words, would any one of those 4 factors disqualify it? The word and suggests that you could have all those other problems potentially, but if it was recorded music and not live, the condition wouldn't apply.
Right. So I believe that condition came from the Finches. I'd have to see it to answer that. I know that alcohol wouldn't be able to be served there, so that wouldn't even need to be in the code. But yeah, we'd have to review that language.
Alcohol is flat out not an issue.
Yeah, the DABC wouldn't be able to give a alcohol permit for.
The only reason we put it in is because we thought it was going to be citywide, and I don't know if someone
But can't they hire a caterer who has a liquor license and then they can do it at an event?
I don't know. I'd have to check the standards on that. As far as I know, off-site alcohol sales isn't permitted.
Well, my point was only
yeah, the language, if we move forward with that, we'd have to review the language. And
if we were to go
through it
forward,
with our
I
attorney.
want to see the word or instead of and. for all
Sure.
those conditions.
I'll just clarify that our intent was that any one of those conditions would trigger the need for security. Any one of those.
And you personally don't have any intent with respect to alcohol on the property?
We will not be getting a liquor license or anything like that.
Thank you.
And then, so the city has that any event we have in this barn would have to have 2 security personnel. So that's why we suggested to have things to.
Sure. Thank you very much for that.
Counselor Whipple.
So I know that running a farm or dealing with animals is more than a full-time job, right? This is not a 40-hour-a-week kind of thing. This is like every waking hour and then some.
Yeah.
But I also know that running an event center is also a pretty time-intensive job. And I'm wondering how you would do both.
So busier than me. I was called myself a one-man band. We used to sell 2 million pounds of pumpkins, and we did that with 5 men. And a woman. My wife's hauled a lot of pumpkins. So now with the horse boarding, the biggest thing for me has been building the structures. You know, we had a fire and we rebuilt everything. It's safe. I've told you I had a stupor of thought in that middle area. I've left it. I just haven't. It's the only place on my place that I don't have horses. I've left it and I've left it and I've left it. Well, my wife has worked as a nurse for 35 years and is now home. So this is something that we're doing together. My job is less than part-time now. I've made hard money my whole life and now I'm making easy money. So I'd like to say I'm a hardworking farmer, but this is easy. I maintain the place. And then as far as the venue, all these uglier people here are my children, and they're gonna. You know, usually the hard part of passing on a farm is who do you give it to? You give it to the one son you like the most. You know, it seems unfair. Plus, they already have careers, so they don't really have the know-how or the career path. But this is something that they can do on a part-time basis with us. So there'll be plenty of work to do, but plenty of people to do it. Many hands make light work.
So if I can follow up on that, your idea is that you would run the event space, but you would continue to board the animals. But it sounds like it's mostly going to be an event space with kind of animal accessories. So it has that rural character. Is that an accurate description of what you plan?
So if you remember, the property is like a long rectangle. And so our homes are up here at the top. You come in here and that's where the barn will be. So right in the entryway of the farm, the landscaped area will be behind it, the parking lot to the side. All the horse boarding is on the perimeter of the property and goes way back. Our property goes like 1,600 feet. So we have properties in the back. Can I call you Catrice? I can't remember your last name. Catrice was there and she saw that there are outbuildings there. Nobody sees them. They're not visible from the road. They're not anything. They're all structurally sound. They all look good inside for the animals. They could use some tin on them. All right. And they're going to get some tin. But, you know, it's really hard for a farmer to find the time or the money to put tin or to improvements on something that an animal's eating and pooping in. You know, it just doesn't make sense. So now we have an impetus and some funding to make some improvements like that kind of stuff. So, but it's very much a working farm on the edges, with the center part being the focal point being this event center.
So at the horse boarding, the people who board with us care for their own animals. So they each care for their own animals. They bring their kids down on the weekends, they come in the morning and the evening, feed their animals. So, you know, the animals, we rent the space and they take care of the animals. Barry's manages there when it's getting along and everything's going well. The event barn will be a lot. And so that's why we'll pull our kids in and help as we need.
So it is your idea that once you have this barn up and running, you'll be able to use the revenue from that to gussy up the outside of the existing structures that you'll be keeping for the boarding of the animals?
So there's only one barn that one existing barn that would be real visible from the road for our neighbors. And we would gussy that up for sure as part of our building the barn. Because if you remember, it was just to the right of the entrance there. All the other barns that are close will be knocked down, other than that petting zoo one, and it's new. It was just built after the fire. So the things that need some gussying up are clear on the backside and not visible to anyone, really. And they have, each one of those barns back there has about almost an acre of open pasture allotted to them. So barn here, acre, barn here, acre, barn here, acre. And that's how it is in the back. They're structurally sound. They look really good and organized inside. They're safe. Their animals are well cared for, all of that. It's just expensive to finish them out, and so that would have to happen at some point, but it might not be day one.
Right. And so that pasture area would remain pasture area.
Absolutely.
That's where you would
Absolutely.
exercise the animals and they go out and everything.
Mhm.
Okay. And you wouldn't be losing any of your kind of animal exercise space
No.
or walking or anything like that
No,
in
this is
either the parking lot or the new barn.
No, these are the buildings that we would be taking down. And Catrice, I told you, I don't know if you remember, but I was saying everything over here is going to be knocked down. We actually extended that and made it wider. So it's a big, what we call the machine shed. All our machinery was in there. It's a big, long, 32-foot wide by 100 feet long, with a silo where we would put chopped corn in next to it. That will all be removed.
That'll be the parking lot.
And that will be the parking lot. And so everything that we're building now was part of the paved farmyard or the structure of the outbuildings before, and we'll limit most of those. Everything that's old will be eliminated. The only barn that you saw, the only barn on the whole place that will be old and original is the one right there along the road as you come in. And it's not very big, and we'll put like hardy board on it and cover it. It's structurally sound. It has tin on the roof.
But you're keeping those 3 barns at the back, right? That have the acre of land behind them?
Yes, all that will stay the same. So it's just we'll be knocking down a silo, which is just a long cement wall, 20 feet high. We'll knock that down. We'll knock the adjacent, it comes off as a lean-to where we parked our machinery. Someone is renting that space to park machinery in right now. We'll knock those down. That will be our parking lot. And then it's the stupor of thought area where the fire was.
Yeah, because one of my concerns was, I didn't know if you would be paving area that was not paved before, because I know once that's done, it's almost impossible to bring that area back into
It will only
production.
be 1 acre of our 10.
And it's all currently.
And it's all current yard. It's all current asphalt. It has been for decades.
And you say you'll knock down a silo and machine shed, but will you not need a silo anymore for
No.
your animals?
No.
Why not?
Because a silo puts, when you chop, you ever see corn growing? And they chop that up, they put that in there and they compact it, and it marinates in there, and then they pull that out. It's called silage. Horses don't eat silage. So every place that we have has space in their adjacent to their stall inside where they can store their own feed for their own horses. So it's all contained. So you have your own, you have your own, you have your own. That way we don't have stuff outside.
Yeah, and you can probably tell that what I'm getting at is I want to be sure that anything that you did here would not impact the possibility to do more farm and agricultural type uses on your property.
No, nothing would be impacted. This was a dairy farm years ago, had 250 cows, milking cows, plus probably another 200 of other kind of baby ones and in between ones. And So that requires a big area. If you drive down the freeway, you see Harvard Farms. You see where he's got about 3 acres of buildings and things. All farms have that. That's where we're putting this now, is where it's been asphalted since the 40s. So it's always been that way.
Thank you for indulging my questions.
No, you're good. Thanks.
Well, as Barry mentioned, I have been there, and I'm all for saving. I'd be happy if none of the farming was ever developed on the west side. Even in the areas where I live on the northeast, I would love it if none of it was ever developed. They just developed a bunch of it, and it was sad. But I do think with this particular item, and the Finches I've seen you in neighborhood meetings. I've read all your emails. I owe your wife a phone call, and I never got to that. I did read everything, and I did visit. But so I appreciate your guys' patience and respectful interactions during all this with Planning Commission, everything. I listened to all of those meetings. I think it's an appropriate use of agricultural land. I do think it would be much more appropriate in an overlay zone. And that's definitely what I would want to see as far as an ordinance for Provo, that we looked at making an overlay zone for this use. Any other comments?
I would like to make one. Counselor.
Hello, George.
Hi. I agree. I think this is the wrong instrument. We talked about this in work session. So I'd like to make a motion that we instruct staff that we'd like to come back with a proposal exploring a different method, preferably something like an overlay zone.
Okay, I'm happy to second that.
Can I bring up one of the concerns?
I don't know if that's appropriate right now.
It's up to you, Chair. And normally once we close public comment, we don't allow additional comment just as a matter of course. But if you decide to allow it, you're certainly allowed to.
Okay, you're welcome to short, please.
Yeah. So when we met with the city initially with the staff, we were told that there was 2 ways to do this. One was this way, one was the amendment. So we're 5 months into this and a certain amount of money and a lot of stress. And it seems like the goalpost is being moved. We are in alignment. There is nothing in the long-term plan or nothing in the Southwest plan that talks about an overlay to have a 10-acre property with 1 acre in the middle of it of commercial. We're saying that it's commercial when in fact the experts in the field say it's not commercial. So it seems to me that that is the bigger violation of the spirit of things. To call something commercial that is not commercial is a bigger violation, I think, and it doesn't work. Our neighbors are saying that they want this to stay agricultural, and that's what the Southwest plan stands for. And if we're gonna have people work and make these plans, and we got to abide by them, even when they say something that you don't want to hear.
Thanks, Barry.
Thanks.
An overlay doesn't mean it will not have any agricultural overlay.
Chair McKay, would you mind if I
go ahead?
Comment about that? There was some just for those who are in attendance who are watching, I just wanted to say that during the work session, they focused around the fact that there are actually 3, and this is a 3rd one. It's not so. What Chair McKay is talking about is not about rezoning the property to something other than agricultural in order to allow the use. It's about a specific tool that we call overlay zones that are something that allow a specific certain thing that go on top of the other zone that's already there. So in this particular situation, the idea would be, instead of saying anybody in the agricultural zone in the entire city can do rental halls, people in agricultural zones who want to do rental halls could come and ask for an overlay zone on top of their agricultural zone that just allows rental halls in the agricultural zones. And there was quite a bit of discussion in work session about some reasons why that why staff might think that's a better idea. So I just wanted to lay that groundwork about what it is that Councilor McKay was referring to. No. So the agricultural zone would stay in place and all of the rights associated with the agricultural zone would remain. This would just add another right on top of what's already there. I don't know if you want to take questions, or I'm happy to go answer some questions if you'd rather while you continue discussing.
Yeah, a motion was made, so I do think we need to, is there a discussion for the motion?
I just have a question about the motion and the procedure. So we have an implied motion. This was not a substitute motion to the implied motion. It was just a different motion.
Well, it wasn't called a substitute motion when it was made, but I would view it as a substitute motion because it is a motion to do something different than what the implied motion calls for. So it's a substitute motion to, and Councilor Handley may want to clarify this, but my reading of the motion was, instead of voting on whether to approve this text amendment, he wants staff to come back with alternate proposals, and in his mind, the preferred option was the overlay zone.
So,
yes, that is my intention.
I guess just for my own edification, should we, I mean, it's not a vote to continue or deny this.
Well, I view it as, again, you know, especially with his corroboration of the way I just stated, I think that by using the words that I put in his mouth, but I think was the spirit of what he was saying, that instead of approving this, do the other thing, it at a minimum places this into an on the table status until that happens.
Okay.
Where it could be resurrected after, if that doesn't lead anywhere. But at a minimum would involve not voting on it tonight because the motion implies that no action should be taken until staff comes back with the alternative proposals.
I see. Okay. Thanks.
As I mentioned in work session, you know, there's a couple ways to do it. One is to do it preemptively like this. Another would be to actually vote and then only do that motion afterwards. But the motion's been made, so should be handled in
Okay.
course.
Any more discussion on the motion? Councilor Shipley.
Yeah, I'll just say that, and I mentioned this in our work meeting, I think an opportunity for a farm owner to do some kind of agribusiness should be in our, you know, I mean, that's in our best interest as a city to have that happen. So with that said, I also am trying to respect what our staff is concerned about for additional properties, for other uses, and the fact that using the conditional use permit basically says if you can meet these certain restrictions, then we have to say yes, right? No matter what the circumstances of the what outside circumstances might exist, and it kind of it might hand tie us in certain situations which we can't foresee, and we're just being speculative. And I understand that's really frustrating for the applicant to hear that, but yeah, we have to trust that staff would be looking forward and trying to protect the city's best interest. And so I think the overlay zone could be a opportunity for us to still accomplish the end goal, which is to protect agribusiness and to protect farmers and to maintain that, but also have a few more tools in place to say, look, in this particular situation, we can't make it like a conditional use permit and just allow it no matter what. So I'm supportive of the substitute motion.
Any more discussion, or should we take a vote? Oh, Councilor.
I think there was no formal second of my motion, but maybe that's what Councilor Shipley was doing.
Yeah, I skipped the gun on that. I'll second it, but I think
I did think
somebody
I
already
seconded it. Yeah.
I'll third it. You're fine.
Councilor Whipple.
So like our other counselors, I want to see open space and agricultural state here. I also want us to use the right tool to do it. And we've run into similar situations like this before, where we've had applicants kind of pursuing one path, and then like months in, we come to find out that that wasn't the path. And that's very frustrating. But I think it's better to take the extra time and get it right so that we're able to protect you and your property and other things. because I think if we don't do it right, then it may not happen at all. And I would rather get it right and everything. If we can do this in such a way that we have our city staff on board so that they're fully supportive. And also, I know that you're doing things like extra security personnel and things like that. And I don't know that we want to impose extra conditions on you that would end up increasing your operational cost and other things that could jeopardize the viability of your business in the future. And so I think rather than forcing you to add these extra concessions without fully looking at the long-term cost of those, taking extra time to get this part right, and if that's an overlay to do that, would be a better option for you, especially after what your security consultant said, where he thought you may have gone a bit overboard. I don't want to punish your overeagerness by holding you to conditions that we shouldn't have to hold you to. So that's my position on this right now.
Councillor Shipley.
I'll just add that, we need to get this right, but we also need to move as fast as we can for their sake. So.
All right. Well, I will call for a vote on the implied motion. No. Substitute motion made by George Hanley. Councillor Whipple.
Yes.
Councillor Ellsworth.
Yes.
Councillor Fillmore.
I'll vote yes. I think the overlay zone would be a better approach.
Councillor Handley.
Yes.
Councillor Shipley.
Yes.
Councillor Hoban is excused. Councillor McKay, yes. So that was unanimous, 6-0. All right. Next is an implied motion for an ordinance amending the general plan to adopt the Conservation and Resiliency Plan. And it is a citywide application and will be presented by Hannah Salzel.
Thank you, Council. We've talked about this in work meetings, so I won't spend too much time. I'll just briefly, for the record and for anyone who's new to this item, go through some of the highlights. I'd like to thank all of the departments who helped. This wouldn't be the plan it is without them. This version is so much stronger. Also, all of our community partners for their insight in how to approach these new frontiers for Provo. We really do have so many allies who are rooting for us with this plan. It's been wonderful to see. Especially the Citizen Sustainability Committee. They're an incredible resource for the city. And also what other cities are doing in their environmentally oriented plans. Required by the state, there are no external criteria we have to meet. This is purely Provo's vision for Provo in the way that we want to see it built. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Hannah. Yeah, we've talked about this at great depth a couple times. All right, let me see here. Any questions right now for Hannah before we open it up to public comment?
I don't have a question, but I do just want to make a statement for the public's sake that what's on the screen is a very brief summary of the most central points, but the plan has much more detail and other related goals as well. Just for people's information.
Thanks, George. All right. Well, thank you, Hannah. We will open this item up for public comment. If there is anyone who would like to comment on it, they are welcome to come up. Come up to the pulpit, say your name, and you have 2 minutes.
Hi, I'm Tim Jaffick. I'm a student at BYU and hoping to live in Provo. Hopefully for my whole life, we'll see. I love it here. There's so many great things about it. Having heard Hannah's plan and just kind of the plan, not only Hannah Salzel's plan, but also just the plan of the entire sustainability committee and kind of their office. I don't think that there necessarily is anything to say opposed to the plan, and I am not would not try to convince anyone to say yes, because I trust that that is your intent, but just want to share my love and appreciation and devotion to this. As a BYU student, as someone who is looking hopefully forward to the future, everything that she has said is very factually based. It's very apparent that both Hannah and her team have done an extraordinary amount of work in making sure that the plan that's proposed is going to be effective and is going to be something that makes good change, and not only makes change for Provo, but also the nation. Is as something we have seen over and over again, is that things don't happen at a national level. Like that's not how things work. They function at a local level. And so as this is being implemented here, we can be a shining star, just as we are economically, just as we are in many of our other communities, and as we are in many of the other things that we do. I look forward to being part of the Citizen Sustainability Council and just supporting Hannah Salzel in all of this. And so I'm just more than anything would urge you to say yes, and then just I'm celebrating and congratulating all of you on helping this develop, because I know that you've had a role in this.
Thank you so much. Come on up, Dawn. You know the drill.
My name is Don Jarvis. I've been the mayor's sustainability advisor since 2011. And in those 12 years, I've seen a lot of great changes for Provo, and none as significant in many ways as this one is. Although Hannah was very kind in giving a lot of credit to the Sustainability Committee, and we have worked hard on this, but it's not just the Sustainability Committee's plan by any means. Hannah went to every single department and got them to comment on it, what they liked about it, what they didn't like about it. In many cases, they found the department said, yes, we're already doing this. Let's make it even more aggressive and more good for the future. So it's a program, it's a plan, it's a consensus of these are some things we ought to do. Many times when I was first appointed, we had no sustainability coordinator, we had no team other than just a few volunteers and myself, and I would come with an idea, and the city would say, "Well, thanks for sharing." But another idea from Don Jarvis. This is not just something that I thought up or worked on. This is something that has wide public discussion, and so it represents sort of a consensus for the city. It is not a requirement, but it is a consensus of what we have all talked about and think this would be a good thing to work on. And we have lots of to-do lists in there for us. So I'm delighted at it. And I appreciate the City Council's study of this, and for all the help we've had from departments in the city, from Hannah and from Bill Pavaroni and everybody who has worked on this.
Great. Thank you, Don. Any other public comment? Come on up. Just state your name for us, please.
I'm Isaac Blomberg. I used to live in Sweden, where energy, clean energy and sustainability is a very big focus of the energy sector. I can't guarantee that I'll live here my entire life, but if I do, it will be because this place is focused on sustainability. So I hope this is a direction that we put a lot of focus on. That's all. Thank
you. Any other public comment?
Hi, my name is Sandra Shumway, and just looking at that chart, I have no idea what you're going to do. So this needs to be...
Yes, if you read the full document, it is very detailed. There's specifics, a lot of specifics.
So I'm concerned,
and if you...
I'm concerned somewhat about the cost of water in the future. I just looked at that, and I'm seeing 2030, and so does that mean... Well, explain that to me.
So this document doesn't mandate anything in regards to water. As you talk about pricing, correct?
That's right.
Like
And allocation.
any pricing would have to go through us for a vote specific.
I'm concerned because I walk at Rock Canyon Park every morning and they water every day. Maybe you don't know that, but they're watering every day. I know they have yellow spots. And I'm concerned during drought years, they watered at least 3 times a week and you were asking us to conserve. So I'm just concerned when you're talking about price and allocation that there has to be something even here. So that needs to be publicly known. And I read your emails to me and I am as concerned a citizen of Provo as probably anybody. And if I'm concerned about this, then you can't rush this through. Thank you.
Okay, exactly what are you concerned about with this document?
Because it's put up there, you're gonna pass all of this, or are you going to have public discussions about this? See, one of the things I'm concerned about is when I come to these meetings, which I do sometimes, probably more than a lot of people come, everything is discussed in your previous meeting, and then you just rubber stamp it.
We have heard about this in a couple of meetings. I know that I've emailed it out to people to read a few weeks ago, like over a month ago, I guess you'd say.
And I read it because I get
Oh, good.
the night and I read it.
Oh, good. So you read the whole document?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's why I'm concerned.
Okay. What specifics
Water.
are you concerned
Well,
about?
I'm concerned about just sustainability and specifically water. But I'm just concerned that this is not being spread enough in the city. And I don't know how else to put it. If I'm not aware of too much, then a lot of other people aren't aware of it. And I don't think you should do things that are going to affect a lot of people.
Thank you. Okay, any more public comment? All right, council discussion. One thing relevant to the last commenter is that it's important to acknowledge that this does not include mandates for citizens. It's about education, it's about goals of our departments, and things like changing our water pricing or the thought of mandates or such would go through us individually for a vote and public comment in that. And this plan did go through a citizen committee where citizens were highly involved and surveys were taken and a lot of public input. So I do think that is relevant. Any other council discussion? Councilor Fillmore.
I too want to express thanks to Dawn and Hannah, all of your colleagues. I think this is a really good effort. And thank you for seeing it almost to the finish line. But I want to address Sandra's concern, if I understand it correctly. Understand that this is not binding. It's not a mandatory implementation. This is an aspirational document. It's what we all want: cleaner air, cleaner water. We want to conserve our resources. We want to be careful, but it's aspirational. It's ideals, goals, and so on. In the end, any initiative to actually do these things, that is to spend money or pass new laws, it's going to come down to this council and future councils. And but we want a plan in place to say what we think would be good if we can do it, given whatever limited resources we may have. That this is a goal if we can do it over time. Nothing immediate necessarily. So stay tuned, see what this and future councils do, and we welcome your input in the future.
Councilor Whipple.
This actually may require Hannah to come back up. So first off, I want to add my deep thanks and gratitude for everyone who worked on this, especially for Hannah, who's push this through. I know this has taken a lot of your time and energy and everything else. On two of our things, we had not determined for the current baseline.
Yes.
And it says that those will be updated once we have those numbers. And I'm wondering if those numbers, they'll just be plugged in once we have them. It won't require any further council action in order to make that change to the document. Is that correct?
That's the way we've designed the urban tree canopy. Since it's a % increase on whatever the baseline is, it can be pretty flexible. For the others, as we feel if we feel they need to be updated, once we have enough information to make a decision, we'll bring that to the council.
Okay, yeah, because we have the ND for air quality and urban nature.
Yes.
And then do we have a timeline for when we think we'll get those numbers in so that we can get those NDs off of our plan?
Yes, we are currently working with BYU. They have some access to software that would be very expensive for us, but as an educational institution, they can get it less expensive or even free. We're just determining what areas need to be counted in that tree canopy coverage. For the survey, I am working on drafting it. I am hoping to be applying for grants as those become available generally in the spring through UCARE to be able to get a statistically valid independent third-party surveyor to be able to run that.
Perfect. I'm so grateful that we have the opportunity to go ahead and pass this. Even though we have those two tiny little pieces missing, we still have our plans and our goals based on that. And I just wanted, the public to realize that it's a real goal there, even though we have our baseline number that's not quite determined yet. But it's not worth holding the plan up however long it takes to get those numbers in.
No, and it's worth taking the time to assess where we're at and make the right strategy for it rather than rushing.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, George Hanley has a question or a comment.
I just want to make just make a comment. First of all, just repeating the thank yous to Hannah and to Brandon also, and for all of the department heads who were willing to be part of this team effort and really have buy-in from all across the city departments and to the mayor. I'm really grateful that department heads and the mayor have made room for Hannah's position to really lead on this and continue to do so after presumably we pass it, hopefully tonight or very soon. But I'm really grateful for that. It's a very promising development. And I'm, of course, grateful to Don Jarvis and the Sustainability Committee for all their hard work. And as I said, I think the last time we discussed this, I feel like this is one of the most important things we'll ever do as a council. And I think it really sets us on a path of leadership, not only for our city, but for the county. I hope other cities will take some inspiration from this example, and we can lead forward to really make this beautiful valley more livable and as green or better than we're enjoying it now. So I'm very grateful for this, and I want to express my full support for it.
Thanks, George. All right. Any more council discussion? Councilor Fillmore.
Yeah, I guess just one more thing. That kind of in responding to Sandra's concern. Do we feel that this has been given wide enough public dissemination, or is there some value in waiting at least 2 weeks and inviting the administration to broadcast this more widely through newsletters or on the town hall, whatever? Is there a sense that we really need to do it today? Is there a compelling reason to do it today? Or does it merit, a little wider marketing effort with the city at large? Welcome anybody's thoughts. Don?
Councilor Whipple.
I would prefer that we go ahead today regarding her concerns. The only thing that could possibly affect water prices in the plan, it says to review the tiered water rates, not to raise them or anything. And we just did that kind of review today in our work session. So I think based on the actual text of the entire document, not just the little summary that we had on the screen earlier, the concerns that this will cost you money are not founded based on what the document actually says. I want you to be at ease on that front. This has been circulated through the public many times. It's been up at City Hall. There's been a lot of discussion on this and public engagement. I don't see any value in putting this off, and I'd really like to be able to check this one so that we can move on to the next things that we have in the queue to work on that have been put aside until we could have this one out of the way.
Any other comments?
If I could add.
George, go ahead, George.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry. If I could just add one more thought, and I think actually Mr. Fillmore spoke to the aspirational quality of this already. So I think that's one important factor to keep in mind. But I would also point out that this entire our entire planning process has been pretty significantly delayed already because we went through a very rigorous process with the general plan, which had involved at the time the beginnings of the process for this plan. So this plan has been in the wings for quite a while, and as Councilor Whipple mentioned, we've got 3 more to come. And so I feel quite eager to take care of it. I mean, if we have reservations about the specifics in it, that's a different matter. But if it's a question of whether or not we've had enough public input, I think we've done our due diligence. Moreover, we've had 2 surveys. We had the survey that was done for the general plan, from which we gathered very important information regarding this plan. But then we also have gathered additional information from the public about their interests in things related to these issues in this plan and in the subsequent ones that are coming. So I think we've done quite a bit to engage people and to get public input. So I'm quite comfortable going forward tonight.
Any other comments? Okay, Sandra, I want to talk to you afterwards, just FYI. Okay, we are going to take a vote on the implied motion. Councilor Ellsworth.
Yes.
Councilor Fillmore.
Yes.
Councilor Handley.
Yes.
Councilor Shipley.
Yes.
Councilor Hoban is excused. Councilor McKay, yes. Councilor Whipple.
Yes.
So that passes unanimously 6-0. If there are no objections, we will now adjourn the Provo Municipal Council meeting by unanimous consent.